Thank you for tuning in to Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast Channels 6 and 22. Channel 6 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 8, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Biweekly Report, with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well.
And I'm Dave Short, Chair, and I'd like to introduce members starting on my right, going clockwise.
I'm Connor Madison.
Kyle Welch.
Andrew Goff.
Trevor Matera.
Nick Campion.
Keith Whitehouse.
Michelle Crinkle.
Bill Campbell.
Kristen Murphy, Conservation and Sustainability Planner.
Dan Chartrand, Select Board Rep to the Conservation Commission.
Thank you. Next item, public comment. See a lot of public here, so I think we can move on to the next one. First action item is wetland and shoreline conditional use permit application for a proposed vehicle storage area and accessory storage at tax map 52, lot 112.2 for Foss Motors. And I believe Christian Smith is here to make a presentation from Beals Associates.
And Kristen, you said you could put
Yep.
plans up? Oh, perfect. Sure. Zoom in just a tad. There we go. All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Again, as the chairman indicated, my name is Christian Smith, engineer at Beals Associates, representing Foss Motors or Meniscus LLC on the property. And you can see this is directly adjacent to the Foss Motors vehicle display and sales building is just to the north plan view. And this property is adjacent to the Waterworks Pond Road that leads out to the Rod and Gun Club. This is the existing conditions plan that was surveyed by Doucette Survey. The wetlands were delineated and the soils were mapped by Go Environmental. Brendan Walden.
They can still hear you. It's
Okay. Brendan Walden is here in place of Brendan Quigley, as he was double booked tonight. So you can see the parcel is largely encompassed by either small little wetland pockets, shoreline protection setbacks, and obviously wetland buffers, about a 6.24 acre piece. And what we're proposing for Meniscus LLC, which one takes us to the next slide? There we
I
go.
have to do that, but you can.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Okay, so we've been through 2 iterations of technical review hearing committee meetings on the project. Initially, the entire front paved area that you see there, which is just where they need to expand so that they have additional area to store and display vehicles, was proposed to be conventional pavement with rather large underground chambered system for stormwater conveyance and treatment. There is a proposed road. Is this actually hitting it? There is a proposed connection drive here into the existing Foss parking area so that they can get vehicles. All the vehicles will continue to be delivered to the existing property, and then Foss's guys will actually bring them down to this parking lot if approved and built. And so we've got a connector road here. We figured just due to the turning action of the tires, we proposed both these entrances to be conventional pavement. All the hatch paving is going to be the impervious pavement. Again, that came out of discussion and negotiation with the Board of Technical Review. You can see we've located all of the trees that are 16-inch caliper or better at chest height that will be able to be retained. You can see the proposed tree line here. And Kristen, can we go one more down? And just to give you an indication of what that tree line came from is essentially the required grading to get the project built and graded. So we walked with a number of members this afternoon up on top of the hill, which is currently forested. That's going to be brought down about 5 to 6 feet at the highest point, and The building is 22,500 square feet in area, and essentially, this is just a big, open building. There's not going to be rooms in it. I don't believe at this point they're even intending to put bathroom facilities in there, but that could change. All of the roof runoff will be contained through a system of downspouts and gutters, put into a bioretention trench in this location that's approximately 6 feet wide. And what that consists of, just for those of you that haven't had a chance to go through the plans, it's got a foot of stone at the bottom, 12 to 18 inches of bioretention mixed soil, which is a combination of sand, loam, and bark mulch often. There are a couple of different recipes you can utilize. But essentially, you can see here, we've got lateral drains beneath the porous pavement, approximately every 25 feet on center, that gets collected through a trunk culvert, manhole, daylights, very close to an existing drainage structure that is there right now, which I think is just the outlet of the detention pond that was either put in as part of the original approval for the current FOSS site or for the GE site in the back. Aside from that, I mean, I think you've been able to walk through and read all the finer details of what the impacts to the buffers, wetlands, and the shoreline setbacks are, and I will entertain any questions that the commission might have.
Thank you.
Can I ask you, further down you have a couple of different maps, the color coding. Can I
Oh,
ask the
yes.
difference
Yep.
between those two maps?
Yes, if you slide down, I think this one is just wetland impact
Yeah.
and wetland buffer impact. And then the next one depicts the 300-foot shoreline area in green, and the 150 is in, I believe that's the orange, yeah, the orange color. No, that's fine. There you go. So the green is permanent shoreline protection district impact between the 150 and the 300. The orange is permanent within the 150, and the purple is temporary impacts, 150 to 300. And that's just areas that are going to have to be graded, but they'll be reclaimed with loam and seed.
How wide is the front of that? I take it comes out to the, close to the road, like the original site where you are now
Yep.
is. How wide is that length there compared to the existing FOSS frontage on Portsmouth Avenue?
You mean the drive aisles, or are we talking the park?
Across the green rectangle there, how wide is it?
Oh, well, in portions from, here to here, if you were to describe a perpendicular line from one to the other, that's the full 150 feet. And
So it's about half the size of what the frontage is that FOSS has now?
that's probably a good rough estimate. Yep.
And obviously, you wouldn't put it up there if you didn't need it, but you feel you need that much space.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, they're actually having to have their employees, some of their employees, park along the GTE road as it sits. They're just busting at the seams with regard to inventory. Oh, and just to elaborate on that point a little bit, Bill, the building here is literally going to be for storage of dry parts for repairs at the shop on the other property. I think Tim said when we were at our last TRC hearing that his father's camper may live in there during the summer months when he's not in Florida, but that'll be the actual only vehicle that would be intended to be stored in that building.
And I noticed that there are two A wetlands in there, A1 and A2, but they're not, because you're going to cover them completely, we don't count them anymore.
I was just gonna go to Brendan's.
Oh.
Is that what you're referring to, Bill, this?
Yeah.
Can you do a rotate 90? There you go. How about over on the right-hand side, yeah, maybe that'll work. Yeah, those two A series, as far as I know, and Brendan, please tell me if I'm saying things incorrectly. Those are actually connected to other wetland systems. This wetland goes beyond here. Obviously, this is the property line between the property that Meniscus owns and the property that the town owns next to the reservoir. And those just are connected to larger wetland pockets. These are kind of isolated wetlands. I'm not sure if that had anything to do with the numbering.
No, it's
Come on
just.
up. Let them hear you.
Sorry. So the reason that those are broken out as A1 and A2 are those were identified by Ryan as the natural wetlands that exist on the site. The rest are either considered man-made with B1 through 3 or man-influenced based on the adjacent grading or roadway. Is that?
And they're gonna be filled, mostly.
B6 and B4 are going to be, and C1 are going to be filled. The A1 and 2 are not going to be touched. Those are just.
Oh, I thought A1 was right in the middle of. Oh,
No, A1's on the other
I
side of the
see.
road. Yep.
Got it. Sorry.
There are buffer impacts to A2
Correct.
Yes.
from the building, which you could now scroll back to the other plans.
Yeah, you're gonna have to do it
I gotta
3
start taking
times. There you
this upside down.
go.
Well, A1 is what's going to receive the water from the...
Yeah, and A1 is
Right.
what's left of the detention pond, I believe, that was built in association with the original Foss property and possibly even the GE property out there. But yeah, you can see the A1 is down here. As Mr. Koff said, we are in the buffer of that, in the setback of that, but we don't touch the wetland. Similarly here, we're in the buffer, but we have no actual impact in that A line. That is actually an existing culvert that comes across this property from that pond, which was the outlet to the pond, from the pond to the little brook. And we will utilize that with our main culvert to daylight the runoff from the pervious pavement. And this is just a rather large riprap apron for outlet control and erosion protection.
Where is the riprap apron? Sorry, I missed that.
Right. That doesn't go so
Right in there.
That feature right there. So the pipe that comes from underneath the proposed pervious pavement is just about 5 feet in elevation higher than the inlet pipe from the pond right here at the head. Well, that's not working. Right there.
Do you know how many parking spaces there are?
Exactly, I don't. And it all depends on how they want to jerry-rig them in there and park vehicles so that the other vehicles have to be moved. We didn't really run through that iteration. What we did do, based on input from TRC, was create the little landscape islands here, and then several of them along the edge of it as well, to maintain compliance with that facet of the regulations. But basically, he doesn't really want to be hemmed into painting stripes because how they park display vehicles is kind of haphazard at times.
And snow removal is street side?
Yes, and in fact, of course it would be, and in fact, anytime they get, a snowstorm, which we haven't in a few years, but they can still happen, I hope, that inundates those, they'll have to truck it outside and dispose of it.
Is that what they do now?
Yes.
What, can you explain a little bit more about the impervious soil, the impervious cover? I know how that works, and it goes down. You mentioned that there are some pipes underneath there that will pick up what's underneath. Where does
Yes.
it all land?
Pardon me?
Is it going to be, does the water get absorbed eventually, or is it goes off?
Very little of this will actually get absorbed. The key to this, and I did double check the detail after our site walk, and this is actually lined with geofabric because we're not exactly certain across this entire thing what the water tables look like. However, that's the reason for the smaller pipes on a lattice like that. As the chairman coined it in the field, it's built kind of like a tree. You have a main trunk and then branches that come in and convey that out.
Where does it eventually go?
It eventually goes to a manhole at this location, second manhole here, daylights to that large riprap apron, and then gets back into the pipe.
Oh, it goes up? It
Yeah.
looks like on the map.
Yeah, well, essentially, you can see the way this is graded. The pervious pavement, essentially, you're going to have high sides on each edge and a low point in the middle, kind of a low center that runs down on top of that pipe, so to speak. And that way, you prevent runoff off that pavement into grassed areas.
So it stays out of Wheelwright Creek.
Correct.
But you're saying you're putting a geotextile underneath this whole system?
Non-woven geotextile under the bottom of the sidewalls.
So, and it impervious?
It is not completely impervious. The whole idea of that, Mr. Koff, is just to keep fines from migrating into the stone reservoir.
Okay.
Underneath that, which would have the propensity to do without some sort of planning under there.
Right.
So yeah, in the event that there was, a low water table in a certain area, there would be some infiltration, but it would probably be very slow, and we do not account for that in the stormwater analysis. Of course.
Sorry. So the removal efficiencies that you identified, what was that based on? Not porous pavement?
No, it is because we had redone that before refiling. We had changed that before refiling, so they...
So even with the under drains, porous pavement still meets our nitrogen
Yes.
removal
Yep.
efficiencies? What's removing the nitrogen?
Essentially it's detention time, it's extended detention within that system. And yeah, we're just utilizing the removal efficiency numbers that we got from UNH Stormwater Center.
Based on porous asphalt that has the barrier?
Yes. Yeah, because just like the bioretention, the bulk of in a bioretention situation, the bulk of the treatment happens when the bacteria are acting on the nutrients and the other undesirable things in the stormwater as it percolates down through into the stone reservoir. Then obviously there's some retention in there, and it then infiltrates back into the soil. In this case, there's a good amount of detention time, which extended detention is utilized in, say, a gravel wetland type of a system, and they do have some very good nutrient removal efficiencies.
So that runoff will eventually get into Wheelwright Creek if it's really heavy?
Yes, eventually, once it travels out of here, in through this pipe, down, and then along that roadside ditch prior to getting to the Wheelwright Brook. Yep.
And there's fabric underneath the parking area,
Underneath the support stone, yes.
What's the lifespan of that?
I mean, if it isn't disturbed, it's probably well north of 25, 30 years.
I won't be.
So that wheelwright, so that culvert that drains the wetland A1 down under the parking lot, that's existing.
Correct.
And that, you're saying then drains under Portsmouth Ave? That connects under Portsmouth Ave? And
Well, then there's another, you can just barely see it, Mr. Kopp, but there's another large pipe right here, which basically, I believe, takes all of the runoff from that side of the road ditch all the way down from almost the gun club and conveys that through, and it's somewhere downstream of the outlet of this culvert, which is on municipal property, that it would enter the Wheelwright Brook.
Okay, and that's the point. The idea is it's not entering the reservoir.
Correct.
Which is better than that going directly into the reservoir.
Correct.
But isn't the point, so were you part of, we had a conceptual meeting about this project. Were you here for that?
I don't think I was. That was,
Were you involved?
Mr. Quigley.
Brendan Quigley?
Yeah.
And the owner. I guess what this design, it's not actually capturing the stormwater and infiltrating it on site. Or am I missing something? I mean, it seems like there's going to be a net significant displacement of infiltration capacity from the site.
Well, we've got the entire, this is a 6 by basically almost 300-foot trench here, which is, that all infiltrates. That's the bioretention media.
But the parking lot is gonna, on a heavy rainstorm, is gonna, reach that overflow elevation and go out into the...
Well, we've run all the calculations, and we are actually reducing the volume under the 2-year storm, which is the channel protection criteria, and then reducing the peak flows under all of the requisite design storms that actually requires you to analyze.
Just to be clear, because I know it's a little confusing, and I tried to touch on it in my memo. Underwood has, our consultant engineer has not reviewed this design. This design was modified from the last TRC, and I believe that you plan to submit for the planning board tomorrow.
Tomorrow, that's right.
Tomorrow. So Underwood hasn't received these plans yet, which I guess is why maybe some of these questions. We don't, typically we have the Underwood response to the design in front of us.
Yeah, and we're not charged with being stormwater management experts, but it's easy to get into that. I mean, we're looking at wetland and shoreline impacts. Predominantly here, that's what these 2 conditional use permits are. It's not
Right.
a technical review of stormwater, but it's all connected, so
There
that's
is a
why.
water quality component in
Yeah.
some of the criteria for the conditional use permit.
That's a good point. Yeah.
How much, this is probably just a general question to you, how much has Underwood looked at climate change have they changed their?
So we do add a multiplier,
15%.
15% multiplier for the changes in precipitation.
Because we're getting some rains now that are pretty
Right,
significant.
right. And so we do require applicants to use the multiplier.
Yeah, and where we get our rainfall data is Cornell University. They keep an ongoing, what they call extreme precipitation table, and they walk through, the water quality volume, which is basically an inch of rain through the 100-year storm, and they probably have data beyond that, but they break it down for virtually every 5 CFS or so. So we're able to pull those from there, and because we're in the designated coastal zone, a 15% additive is given to those 24-hour rainfall events.
I guess back to my other comments about we had reviewed this conceptually before. That was just the parking lot. It was not this building.
Correct.
This is new information to us. The tone from the conceptual meeting that I remember was that we were pretty wary about the size of the parking lot and its impact. So to have it come back and be even bigger, larger, more extensive impacts, to me is concerning due to the scope of particularly the wetland buffer impacts at this project.
And I will say, Mr. Koff, that understood, but we have pared back the parking lot itself Have we pared it back 22,500 square feet to offset the building? Probably not, but the parking lot has been reduced since that iteration of the design.
Okay, and I didn't go back to look
Yeah.
and compare footprints. I guess I question the scope of it. You admitted just yourself that the building's large enough for someone's RV to be parked in it seasonally. That doesn't seem like an essential use of a building. Can't they store, I mean, there was an argument that was made for this parking lot, which I get, they need on-site parking for vehicles. Do they also need, is it essential that they have auto parts in this building right next door? What other options could there be for parts? I mean, typically people, they're getting parts from places now. I understand there's regulations on having a certain amount of vehicles and storage by the dealership, and that's frustrating to me, but I understand that's a thing, but do they really, this is I guess a sensitive location next to the town's drinking water supply, and my 2 cents is just that the extent of the impacts here is just too great for this small site. It isn't designed in a way that's sort of sensitive to some of those resources, those natural resources on the site that are adjacent to the town's water supply, particularly the building, and that little, the wetland buffer impacts there from the building. So I guess that's my takeaway, and so I don't have a real question there, but I'm concerned about this project.
And I can address a portion of your question, and that is, I believe that what drove them to decide they wanted to have, and bear in mind, these parts are going to be dry too. These are not, parts that come with fluid in them or greased or anything of that nature. These are dry parts. And I believe that's largely been driven by their inability to get things when they need them. It's just been part of the entire transportation system, delivery system. But anyway, I just wanted to mention that. I think that's what drove the desire to have storage buildings such as this.
So it's not going to be partially a distribution center also? For other,
Well, a distribution center to next door, essentially.
So exclusively for their use?
Correct.
I had the same concern when I saw the size of the building, surprised me, with the size of the parking, with the additional size of the parking lot. I agree.
Well, we're trying to balance having people do what they want on their own land, but we're right next to the water supply. It is very concerning. I mean, we're going to take down hundreds of trees to get that building there. But it's their land.
And the one thing I will say is we did indeed try to keep runoff from this property from the reservoir. That was without question in the forefront of our minds in this design.
What's the effect of the Underwood report? Are we asked to approve this tonight? Can I come up with some other facts that we didn't know about, or they even say there's got to be some improvements? How does that affect our decision? Should we be waiting until we got that report in?
You do have the ability to, if you feel you don't have enough information in front of you, you do have the ability to request that be provided. You also are advisory to the planning board.
Correct.
So the reason why these applications come to Concom first are to get your feedback, because you're weighing in on the natural resource component of it. I don't know, I guess there's a couple different ways this could be played. You can approve it as proposed, assuming that it meets the nutrient removal efficiencies as Christian presented. You can, deny it as proposed for whatever reasons, or you can request more information.
What about polling the sentiment of the board as far as waiting for this Underwood review, or not waiting for it? Okay.
Yeah, you can do that. I think it would be helpful for Christian and the applicant to identify, well, yes, you can do that. Then
Because
maybe you do that. I guess I'm struggling with, do you step through the criteria to identify what additional information you might need first?
Well,
or do
it seems,
you-
but it seems like if that issue alone could make everything else moot for now. Or do you want to go through the criteria and see if that further refines people's questions, I guess?
Yeah. I think it's board preference.
Dave, when you say that criteria alone, are you talking about proximity to the reservoir?
No, I'm talking about having the town engineer review this plan, or has not reviewed this plan yet.
Okay.
So.
The under drain part of the
Yeah.
parking lot.
Yeah. So it'd be nice to just maybe get an informal sentiment from each member about how they feel, and then potentially go from there.
I have some additional questions, real quick. I have additional questions, just if you don't mind, just clarifying ones. You guys have a lot of tree removal. Is there any plantings at all to mitigate this? This is both state shoreland and Exeter.
Yeah, there are plantings proposed. You can see down on the slope, the side slope, there's not really any great opportunity to do much in the way of plantings, but there are plantings proposed across the front, in between the parking and the GTE road, as well as in the, did you have that one?
I mean, in regards to the buffer that you're removing between the building and, I guess, Waterworks Pond Road, it seems like you're removing the majority of the basal area, just leaving a mohawk of trees there. I don't see that mohawk sustaining any wind or any, yeah, there it is. So on that south side of the building, is anything going in there besides the trench?
No, because you don't want to plant.
I guess you could put the trench on the other, you could put the trench on the other side, though.
You could.
Okay,
You
so no
really want those
plantings.
over more native soils, you're going to get better infiltration that way.
I thought you did you do any infiltration testing for this project?
We haven't as of yet. We've got the water table information from the soil scientist through his soils mapping.
Yeah, but he's just put, okay.
Oh,
Is that which,
Brendan brings up a valid point. We wouldn't actually be allowed by the state to move the infiltration trench on the other side because that wetland area would preclude that.
so that brings up the points of, B1 through B3. You say they're not Exeter jurisdictional, but the state jurisdictional?
I believe they're jurisdictional, they just don't have a buffer with the town.
So my understanding from the town ordinance is that if it's man-made, then there's no buffer. Is that correct?
It is correct, but it's not
It's B1 through B3, which
B1
then-
through B3.
which is where
So
the
that's
driveway
not
is.
that.
So it's that man-made drainage down that heads down to A1.
Could you use the pointer? It's the one on there is
These
helpful.
bees
because then
confuse
people
me.
watch it.
Sorry, so
The
this
one
is,
on there is a pointer,
This one?
and then people from the TV can follow what you're doing.
Oh,
Try holding with the other one.
that's better.
okay. Sorry.
I gave it to you backwards.
Yep. right, so this was B1, I believe, which is a man-made drainage ditch with the association between grading for possible routes to the north and this roadway to the south. And we established that was considered man-made until you get to this more naturalized wetland area that expands. And you get your more native emergence that come up here with your native existing tree structures.
Can you speak into the mic a little?
Sorry.
The old guy back here can't hear you.
I'll try and speak up. And then B2 here is an existing drainage ditch that's man-made, associated with, I believe it's this driveway, and that just peters out here. It's just a drainage ditch, and then this is a man-made detention pond associated, I believe, with this development up here.
And that's
part
B3?
B3, yes.
Okay.
But B2 and 3 don't have any associated impacts with them.
Yeah.
The only impacts are to B1.
And then B4 is on the north, sorry that I'm stealing all of this. B4 is on the north side of the building is what you were saying?
I forget which way exactly it goes, but it's B.
One of those is a B.
Yeah.
And then the one at the bottom of the hill is a B. Okay.
Yes.
So-
And so they meet the state jurisdictional criteria by having hydrophytic vegetation, hydrology, and hydric soils. That's,
I guess I've never seen it meet the state jurisdiction and still call it a swale. So I mean, how does it meet all three, but we're still calling it a swale, but in the state, we're not calling it a swale?
we're still calling it a swale.
But it's still state jurisdictional?
Yes.
Okay. I've never run into that
Okay.
before, so that's why I have to wrap my head around that.
So over
So have you done a pre-app for this yet, or anything with the state yet?
No pre-app is necessary for this, I don't believe. I think it's people running 10,000, right?
Yeah, 6,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's no pre-app required. Anything over 10,000 needs pre-app. The only it's just going to go in as a minor impact application.
Okay. For state, yeah.
And then shoreline, of course.
And then the shoreland, have you taken the tree points of this? What's the ratio of what we're taking, what we're leaving?
You don't have to do tree point. You don't have to do the individual tree counts for this.
Are we
Tree
under
counts
50?
It's only within the 50 foot. But for this, you'll have to establish a natural woodland buffer between the 50 and 150, which is based on a square footage of what you have, and I believe you can keep up to 20 or 25%. I think it's 25 for a natural woodland buffer.
There's the RV.
That's like the minimum that you can keep.
Okay, sorry, I'm straying away as I'm
Nope.
just going through. I have 3 windows up here. Okay. Sorry for taking over here.
No, you're good.
I'm trying to understand these
No,
wetland categories.
and the property keeps going. That's not the edge of the property. The site map.
It goes to the east a little bit.
A little bit more.
Yeah. And there is, I believe we did identify wetlands to the east, like on the eastern boundary as well.
Okay. Oh yeah, you did. Okay.
All right, what would be the board's preference? Do you want to go through the criteria and see if that spurs any further questions or helps address some of the ones that have already come up? Or,
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
okay,
We're here.
that's a benefit.
all right.
Yeah.
Number 1, the proposed use is permitted in the underlying zoning district. Does anybody on the board have a question about that for?
So this is the we're
Yeah.
doing the wetland conditional use permit.
Yes.
Scroll.
I don't. That makes sense to me.
Okay. Number 2, no alternative design which does not impact a wetland or wetland buffer, or which has detrimental impact on the wetland or wetland buffer is feasible. Anybody have any questions for that?
This question was just asked, Person Keith. Is there more property behind this that you people own?
Yeah, this depicts pretty much the entire parcel, except for a bit of a dog leg up in this location, but
Could the building be moved back?
we really can't because there is a main water main through here.
Okay.
And, as Brendan mentioned, there's another wetland feature back there and another wetland feature at that location, so. But yeah, he clearly can't propose to bring his building down, over the top of this rather large water main, which has an easement through the property anyway.
Everybody satisfied with number 2?
Well, I guess I'm not.
No.
I still,
I thought that would be a...
yeah, number 2, I mean,
We don't know.
yeah, it's hard to say that this design, there couldn't be other designs to minimize the buffer impacts, particularly along the southern part of the property. Those two wet buffer impacts right there, I'm more concerned about, which is the natural wetlands adjacent to the Waterworks Pond Road in that ravine. You can't tell it on here, but there's a hill on the left side of the building that's going to be cut, and then there's sort of a big ravine where that drainage is. Maybe a ravine is a strong word for what it is. It's a little valley, wooded valley.
It's not a swale.
It is not
Maybe
a
it is.
swell, and that's a significant impact to that buffer, because there will be grading, there will be clearing of the forest. So I guess there's a lot of wetland impact and wetland buffer impact, but I think a design that is more sensitive to those two southern blobs would be more digestible for me, at least.
And just, this is that driveway on the backside
It's a huge
isn't in
hill.
the new proposal? Or it is? That driveway on the far right, is that still on the new plans? I guess I read in you removed something.
There was a perimeter road.
Oh, there was a ram.
Sort of see where this daylight is coming up from there. It's pretty high.
We had
Okay, so that's
we
accurate.
had a road that
Coming in
was
from this
designed
way, it's
around
even
the entire
steeper
thing.
going uphill, yeah.
And we reviewed that with
Okay.
the fire chief, and he can review what we've got.
So it looks kind of like it's flat, but it goes, you see the daylight there, not here, so it's like that.
Yeah, I think I'm just going to echo Drew's concerns with that. Being on site, that grade it's hard to tell in the plans
Yeah.
of what it truly is.
Because, yeah, it looks like two little blips, but it's a drastic alteration of that little drainage area, which is, in sight of the treatment facility and the dam and the intake to the water treatment plant. It's right there. There's a road in between, certainly, but
Does anybody else have any further questions on that or observations? All right, number 3. A wetland scientist has provided an impact evaluation that includes the functions and values of the wetlands, an assessment of the potential project-related impacts, and concluded to the extent feasible, The proposed impact is not detrimental to the value and function of the wetlands or the greater hydrologic system. Any questions on that one?
I guess that one would be helpful to get the Underwood review on as well, just in terms of, I'm concerned about the impacts to the, based on this under drain system out into that Wheelwright Creek. It does seem like, to me, there is some net disturbance of water from this proposed activity. From those wetland impacts. I guess it's a slightly different question though. It's the hydraulics of the wetland impacts and the buffers. But it relates.
I also think I disagree with, I guess, the answer there where it says none of the wetlands being impacted are considered high value. I feel like the impacting that buffer of A2 is an impact.
Oh, well, yeah, and I'm not trying to say it's not an impact. It's just that there is a scoring mechanism that wetland scientists use when they look at function and value of wetlands, and none of these were considered high value when he did that evaluation. Fair to say?
A1 had some value related to water quality.
Which
but
is?
The northern piece that he's
Oh,
talking
okay,
about.
yeah.
But as far as that impact being.
Do you want to talk
Yeah,
into this
sorry.
one?
Sorry. As far as that impact being, an overall, having observable negative impacts to the overall identified function and values, it's almost going to be,
Minimal,
You're
yeah.
not going to see much. We're talking, I think that impact is a couple hundred square feet maybe.
Yeah.
So in the grand scheme of the buffer of that wetland, it's not going to have significant impacts as it exists today.
Typically, I would agree with like that and across our sites, but just given the location of this site and the sensitivity, I don't agree with that statement. I think this particular site needs additional consideration from our standard wetland impact reviews.
There's a stream to the west of this property, is that right? The one that comes down by Exeter and comes into the Wheelwright Creek?
Yes, I believe that outlets north.
North of
property.
Foss? Is it north of the
Yeah.
actual
And
Foss
It
dealership?
does, I believe, continue through behind the existing Foss.
So, I'm confused, the water behind there, behind then, whatever's next to that, I can't remember. But the water that's coming down that waterway by Hannaford's, where is it? It winds up in the creek somehow.
Yeah,
But that doesn't interfere with this property at all.
no, I believe.
Because I know when we put Hannaford, when we put that waterway in, that was one of the concerns. And they were saying, oh no, it'll be emptying into Wheelwright Creek below the reservoir.
It is my understanding that that creek that was restored beside Hannaford outlets to the top of this project.
To A1?
To,
Oh, does it? Yeah, does it outlet to A1, which is then,
I'm trying to pull up a.
Yeah,
aerial
that would make
photo.
sense.
Brought to Wheelwright.
Okay.
which then is part of that culvert that then, so we're gonna be adding flow. This project would add flow to that. I think you're right. So,
Because that, at times, had good flow in it.
Yeah.
Like,
right, so this is a critical juncture because it's receiving flow from those properties to the north.
yeah.
including another car manufacturer dealership.
What's next to Fox to the north?
Right.
And then it's Holland Way, and then you've got another car
It
dealership.
doesn't, well, the stream I'm talking about comes under Holland Way, goes by, because they did a marvelous job, which got deteriorated, of taking that stream and redoing the whole thing. That was beautiful. For 5 years though, after 5 years, not fishing, people that control this stuff.
DES.
Said, huh?
DES?
Yeah, said, we're not involved in it anymore, it's up to the owners to keep it up. And right now, it's a wreck. But the water still comes through there, and it comes through pretty fast sometimes. And I just wondered how it affected. And I'm thinking again of climate change. We get some pretty heavy rains now. They're not going to lessen in the next 5 years, I gather.
Right, but we can't require applicants to address water coming onto their property from another property, right? They're required to address property that they're required to address water that they shed, right?
Oh, you're right.
But I guess that would be incumbent on the town to make sure that those properties are maintaining their stormwater structures adequately that may be discharging into this system. And I guess that brings up the question, is that culvert that brings the water under the site or under the proposed parking lot, is that adequately sized for these higher flows? If it was installed, I don't know when that whole system, but it is this convoluted system out there.
Quite a while ago, I know I went after DES about not letting the pigs deteriorate. It was full of invasives and whatnot now. And they said, we have no responsibility for that.
Yes, there is a maintenance issue on the one next to Hanover. For this project, Christian, did you look at the sizing of the drain that connects A1, I think we're calling it?
Yeah, that was looked at. And that culvert seems to have plenty of capacity. And the elevations are such that they're out of the 100-year floodplain for the Wheelwright Brook as well.
I guess that's something maybe Underwood should review in their third-party culvert size. Because if we're adding flow from this proposed parking lot to that system, that would be something to think about, because it could back up flow into that A1 area, right?
The culvert's right there.
Is that
No, I think so, yeah.
a right interpretation?
The flow from the under drains,
Yeah.
to back up water into that, we actually have to prove to the Wetlands Bureau and ultimately alteration to drain that is not the case.
Right.
Because you are not allowed to use existing wetlands as storage.
You're also not allowed to drain or flood upstream or downstream properties.
Okay.
Further observations or questions?
Okay, so that was this minor digression on item 3, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Number 4, that the design, construction, and maintenance of the proposed use will, to the extent feasible, minimize detrimental impact on the wetland or the wetland buffer. And that's kind of what we've been discussing already.
Kind of dovetails with the previous conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, everybody okay with going on to the next one? That the proposed use will not create a hazard to individual or public health, safety, and welfare due to the loss of wetland, the contamination of groundwater, or other reasons.
This is where I would argue the special nature of this site developing additional sensitivity under that item.
Well, again,
But
this is where it kind of dovetails what we've
Yeah.
been discussing.
Could you read that one again?
Proposed use will not create a hazard to individual or public health, safety, and welfare due to the loss of wetland, the contamination of groundwater, or other reasons. Number 6, the applicant may propose an increase in wetland buffers elsewhere on the site that surround a wetland of equal or greater size and of equal or greater functional value than the impacted wetland. Christian, do you have an answer for that?
I mean, essentially, there's not really opportunity to do that on this property because we're surrounded by development.
Right.
And, you know, that back end, I mean, the wetland that was delineated on what would be the eastern end of this kind of Y-shaped property, that buffer's not decreased, but there's no real way
Right.
to improve it.
Anybody agree they're kind of locked in on that one?
Yeah.
Okay. Number 7, in cases where the proposed use is temporary or where construction activity disturbs areas adjacent to the immediate use, the applicant has included a restoration proposal revegetating any disturbed area within the buffer with the goal to restore the site as nearly as possible to its original grade and condition following construction.
And so as you can see by this plan, the only actual temporary buffer impact is that little blue area, which would just be disturbed to install the outlet pipe that comes from underneath the porous pavement. And of course, that would be, restored as nearly as possible to original grade and vegetated. All the other in green is proposed permanent buffer.
Okay, and then the last one, number 8, that all required permits shall be obtained from the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services, Water Supply and Pollution Control Division under NHRSA, I don't know what that is, 485-A, :17, the New Hampshire Wetlands Board under NHRSA 483-A, the United States Army Corps of Engineers under Section 404 of the Clean Water Act, which I'm assuming would be a step in the process.
Oh, without question.
If we get beyond this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I mean, this isn't something that we wanted to go forward to the state with until we've at least got a handle that,
Right.
Things are in a good position with the municipality.
Right.
Both this board and
So,
So, yeah, I mean, and the answers provided are pretty, in your application, are pretty sparse for some of the items we talked about in terms of justifying the impacts and the design. Just as far as other conditional use permits that we've reviewed with this scope of wetland impact, there's typically more of an explanation in the actual application of the design.
yeah, I mean, we did have Gove Environmental provide a pretty
Yeah.
beefy memo, which I will spare you reading that entire thing into the record, but, it has a good deal more information than what was just placed into the actual response numbers for the conditional use permit.
does anybody feel strongly about presenting a motion?
Would this be a motion for the wetlands?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
before that happens, given where this is sited, next to our surface, one of our main surface water
Yes.
resources, I think it's entirely appropriate to wait for Underwood. That would be my opinion. And also the fact that this was brought to you expeditiously, which is fine. The applicant is within their rights to try to accelerate the process. But you're within your rights as a board to say, we want more information. So that's my take on where you are right now. Those two things are in my mind as you consider whether to make a motion or not.
Yeah, no, I think the Underwood component is big. Yeah.
Combined with the fact that it's next to our surface water
Well,
resource.
for that reason, yes, yes,
Just to be very clear.
yes.
I guess my concern, if we don't take action, I think this may have happened once, and then we can certainly still provide a memo to the planning board, but the planning board could take action and review this without our review.
Yeah.
Well, that's true, but you could send a member or members to that meeting and explain why you did not take
Yeah.
action.
And it does seem, so timing-wise, Christian, you're scheduled for the May 23rd, or if you submit tomorrow, you're scheduled.
That will
for
be
May-
our initial meeting with the planning board.
Right, and
And I know
so
that they-
decision-wise, they probably won't make a decision that day, that meeting.
It would be unfathomable.
Right, well, Mayor, it could happen, but if they didn't, it would probably be at the next, I assume, planning board meeting, which is the 13th. There is a Conservation Commission meeting prior to that, and I do think it would be fair for you to request the applicant. I mean, Christian, would you be willing to come back to
Of course.
Concom
Yeah.
after UEI has reviewed the proposal?
Can Underwood turn it around by that time?
I think by that time, I would be shocked if we have a memorandum back from them by the 23rd.
Right.
But I can almost guarantee you they will respond by the 13th.
And the next meeting of this board is on the 11th.
Right.
So by the 11th, would that?
I have to believe you. I mean, I think they give themselves 2 weeks. They'll get the materials tomorrow. So,
I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, again, this is not a site that is typical
No.
of where you consider that surface water.
We're entrusted
Resources.
with taking care of the water in these
Yeah.
Well, especially that one.
Yeah, and I've sort of been absorbing this whole conversation, which has been great, but I feel that the context of this being that this area is so sensitive because of that reservoir, and we're really dealing with two very specific aspects of the water here. Like usually we look at like wetlands and say like, oh, how much habitat is there? How many turtles are in there? And like we're not doing that here. Here we're really looking at like a significant change in hydrology and a significant change or potential change in water quality itself, and how we're managing for that through engineering mechanisms. And because of that, I know I don't have the background to be able to look at this and say, absolutely, without a doubt, what is coming out of that pipe is just as fine as what would be coming off of those natural areas. Knowing that we're stripping so many trees off of this area and we're putting a very large amount of man-made structure in there, whether it be pervious or not. We're not even taking into account, and we haven't even talked about like management plans of any of this yet, right? Like we're still like, holy cow, we're moving a lot of water in another direction and we don't know the quality of that water at the moment. So I think with all of that, I would feel a lot more comfortable having that kind of technical backing and review and another layer of that before I made a decision.
and may I make just one point, Mr. Chairman?
Absolutely.
Yeah, Mr. Matera, with regard to the management, specifically because we've got an alteration terrain permit ahead of us. But I believe that the town has actually put this into their stormwater ordinance as well. There will be a stormwater inspection and maintenance manual, which will have to be followed. Annual reports will then be required to be sent to, I believe, DPW, the town engineer.
That's what the requirements are.
Yeah. So
And-
there is a mechanism in place whereby if they're not getting those reports, they can go do enforcement on what are you guys doing, where's your inspection reports, et cetera, et cetera.
That's good to hear.
And pervious pavement maintenance outline
Right.
on what needs to be done to keep it functioning properly
Right.
and not being done.
Yeah, and that's all. We actually have a big maintenance section
Right.
on one of the sheets, which will be in the inspection and maintenance manual as well. And yeah, I mean, you can't sweep it. You have to vacuum it
Right.
twice a year. You plow it with your blade a half inch up, which nobody likes, but you can't apply sand to it.
Right.
There's numerous things that need to take place.
Yep. All right. Do we want to hold off on denying and give them a chance to resubmit? Is that the way to go?
I would recommend that, sorry.
Yeah, I'm not familiar, but you basically want that engineering.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I don't know if we have to go to the extent of a denial at this point.
I don't think you do. I think that Christian has expressed,
Willingness to-
willingness to come
yeah.
back. I'm sure that
Love it.
Dave would ensure.
Why would I want to?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
That's the one.
all right. Let's do that. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, folks.
Yeah, I think it.
Yeah, we
the
s-
table until the
Next meeting.
More information.
Go ahead, Trevor.
UTI evaluation is completed.
Okay,
Yeah, I make a motion to table the, this item until the UVI is complete for the meeting on the 11th.
Second.
any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
I meant to say aye, sorry. Aye.
All right, unanimous.
Thanks again, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. The next item up is a letter of support for the bank stabilization along the Exeter River at River Run at Exeter. Aquatic Resource Mitigation Grant. And this will be presented by Paige Libby from Jones and Beach and Tracy Degnan from RCCD. Hello.
I am Tracy Degnan from Rockingham County Conservation District, which is what RCCD stands for. Thank you for having us. I am here to talk about two different components of this river run community that we are working in. One of them has to do with what we're doing right now for stormwater management. So just a little background, I got called into this project with some partners, including Department of Environmental Services, New Hampshire Sea Grant, Jones and Beach, and DES. And we submitted an application to Great Bay 2030 for funding to do some stormwater management practices with the River Run community, working with some of the residents. That community also happens to be a flood-ready neighborhood community, which you folks probably know about. And so we have been able to form a committee. We have the River Run stewards that we're meeting with once a month, and we also meet with the residents as well to talk about some plans that we've been developing. We've been developing those plans with Jones and Beach, having created, let's see if you can see them right here, the topographic plans, and actually the permits that were brought before you, I think about a year ago, maybe in July. So took those plans, and Paige Libby from Jones Beach right here, brought those plans to UNH, Senior Capstone Project for Engineering, who helped also create a master plan for stormwater. So we've kind of been working cooperatively with UNH, Jones Beach, and all these residents, and our team, which has been really fun. And so what we've come up with is, this is just an overlay of the whole area. I don't know what a pointer went, but the top left big circle there, it's kind of what we heard from the residents as like a focus area. We want to work on this focus area. There's drainage problems all over the place there. The more open area here.
It should work, Tracy, it just needs to be woken up.
I don't know where it is.
Oh, sorry.
Is it on the, yeah, I don't know where it is. That's all right.
Yeah, Christian walks away with
Yeah, he's got it in his pocket. So directly to the, I think it's to the south of it, is their clubhouse that they just, it's gone,
Oh,
huh?
here it is.
Oh, wait, it's been messed up. All right, so just, wait. No. Okay,
flip it around the other way.
this way?
I don't know.
Not so much.
Battery died.
I don't know. Ooh, now it got bigger, it got smaller.
There we go.
All right, thank you,
The top.
sorry.
That's okay.
Tech difficulties, huh? All right, so this is the area right here that I'm talking about. Right here is their new clubhouse. So there's a lot of water flow coming down, ponding in that intersection of the roadway. So the residents are really concerned about it. It's also where their post office is and their community clubhouse, the room to gather. So we've been really focusing on that one area. I'm going to do a little old school, a little new school. So this is the plan that we developed. I don't know if you guys can all see it. This is the plan that sort of collaboratively we worked on with the River stewards and our team, and have come up with a couple of practices that we've already done, a couple of them. We're working on some more in early June. This right here, these are the rain barrels, right? These are rain gardens, but we didn't install those. Instead,
That's what
the new units right here? Okay, so instead a new unit was placed here, and so we installed 2 new rain barrels at the end of it, and we determined that we really need to create this dotted line here is a swale between these units to take the water flow that's coming down the road through, and the rain barrel as well, through the swale that we hope to develop here. And then to another little rain garden down here. So this is the road that gets flooded all the time. It's Friar Tuck, and I guess this is the extension of Robin Hood. Here's the clubhouse right here. You guys see that? Here's the clubhouse. So the hope is to have the water drain into this larger rain garden, and then we hope to, it's probably going to be a different phase, put in a culvert under this road so that the water's not going on the road, which has caused a lot of freezing problems, and then develop a larger, down here, a larger bioretention system, like a larger community scale bioretention system to handle more water flow. You can see the Exeter River is right here, and just off this road there's like gullies. I don't know if you guys have been on the site, but there's like gullies of the water just flowing right over the banks, eroding it. So that's been a big problem all along this whole complex. And that was, I believe, what Paige came before you folks a year ago with these, I'm just going to put this up here.
Yeah.
With these couple of areas, which is really hard to see, but this area was what was originally proposed in the permit, which came before you, went to the landowner, kind of talked about the initial costs. The landowner said, oh, we can't, we have other funding criteria right now, we can't do that. So now I'm segueing into the new project. So the old project, the current project is the stormwater management, which we hope to have another phase of because there's a lot of issues on this site. And they really need some help, and it's working. The new project is right here, right there. Right here, I'm sorry, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. So this is area 2. So the new project is here, and what has happened, the April 20th storm event that we had, a lot of rain, caused a bank failure. So there was a bank failure down here, just south of area 2, and probably within 12, 15 feet of a mobile home unit. And, really kind of shook up the residents there. So Paige was great. She got an emergency authorization completed, sent to DES to allow for temporary stabilization, because it's just collapsed, yeah, completely. So, but this is all adjacent to Area 2. And so now we're talking to the landowner, we're talking to the River Run folks about, let's work on a riverbank stabilization. And DES would like to see a living shoreline concept. So would we. So I think that's our next step. So we're in the very beginning planning stages of this. We're talking with everyone right now. But there's also funding applications coming up, which is why I'm here. Obviously, we'll have to come again for the permit that gets completed to do this work. But we're hoping to work as a team and collaboratively apply under RCCD's sort of project management, I guess, apply for a couple of different funding sources. One of them could be Department of Environmental Services Aquatic Resource Mitigation Funds, ARM funds. One of them could be the Watershed Assistance DES funds, the 319 funds, and possibly even Great Bay 2030 funds. This would be a cross-sectional kind of project, stormwater and stream bank restoration. So really just wanted to bring this before you. We don't need a letter of support quite yet, but we will, because they're like rolling application deadlines. And the next one is May 3rd, the end of this month. And that one is for a pre-proposal for aquatic resource mitigation funds. And we need to have landowner sort of permission and support for that. So we have a meeting on Friday morning.
So you're looking for a letter of support for the concept of what you're trying to do to go along with your applications?
When we get there, yeah.
And then you will be back once it's progressed further with how you're actually going to implement it.
Right. So it's really just pre-posing this information to you to let you know that we're going to start working on this. Meanwhile, we're still working on the stormwater management components. But it seemed like the time was ripe, and the partners are all willing to participate, and the landowner has Jones and Beach working for them, so they're going to keep going on the plans and the permits, and we're hoping that we can make a really great project, maybe a demonstration project out of this.
Yeah.
Right at the top part of this area, too, right at this corner of Little John Drive, we're doing a restoration bank planting. June 3rd, 4th, I'm right in there. And we're doing another one over here. So we are working at it. We are communicating with everyone. We're talking about the importance of water quality, obviously, and trying to mitigate, the runoff from going right into the river. So, untreated. Any questions?
There was a resident who showed up at the Alewife Festival and complained about the rain barrel water running over the road and freezing.
Oh, so we just installed the rain barrel, so it wasn't this winter. No, we just did it.
I think it was the runoff maybe before the rain barrel was put in.
Yeah.
So,
because she kept talking about the roof.
yeah.
When did you install?
A couple weeks ago? 2 weeks ago?
Be quick.
Yeah, I mean, the things that I showed you on this other plan, they're not all installed. Really, all we've done.
She was saying it was by the mailbox.
Yeah, I think the water here is a significant problem in the winter.
It is.
Anytime, I think it just ponds right there. And I haven't seen it all seasons, but I have been down there after a couple of rain events, and it's significant. So anyway, this is our focus area. There's other areas of the park that we'll probably have to start taking a look at and looking at phases of this project. But so far so good, and they like working with us. So it's been a great project. Trevor knows about it.
I know about this one. I got a bunch of touch points on this, so a bunch of questions for you too. So first of all, this was a Great Bay 2030 funded project, right, for this year under the water quality work group?
Yes, under water quality.
And what portion was being funded by that? What was being funded by that
like
slug?
the overall project?
Yeah.
So working with the UNH students, working with Jones and Beach, coming up sort of with a plan, working with the flood, with the folks.
Okay, so it was this stormwater aspect and
Yes,
not the living shoreline aspect.
No, that's brand new.
Yeah. Because I remember that coming before us. So I guess segueing to that, because I remember bringing bringing ARM and DES along on this living shoreline journey. So Wagon Hill Farm was, in Durham, was a living shoreline funded, and Cuts Cove
Yep.
in Portsmouth, funded by ARM. I think both of them. Although the difference there being that those two were very significantly salt marsh
Right.
restoration. I mean, the creation of salt marsh in those areas, not only saving salt marsh, but like actually bringing out to restore a shoreline of salt marsh
Right.
in both areas. How do you, I guess, ARM is very interested in that restoration of habitat, that proving of habitat value for the dollars being proposed. What sort of is that sell? Just
That improving the habitat value there.
what habitat is it?
Well, it's a,
I was just gonna say, we haven't really gotten super far with the application yet, so we
Yeah.
really haven't put much detail into that yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
but there was a study done in, I think, 20 years ago, 2009. What's the
Oh,
geomorphic?
yes, yeah, the geomorphic assessment.
Right, and so that lends itself to, this area has been designated an area that really needs help for bank stabilization.
Totally.
So,
Yeah.
and by doing a living shoreline concept, we're at least enhancing the bank naturally.
Yeah.
Which is what we want to do. So DES wants us to do it.
Absolutely. So I think on the one hand, like I'm totally for supporting the idea of the state putting their money where their mouth is in supporting these kind of projects, because I think these are kind of the stabilizations that we want to see. The cynical side of me says that, and this was something that, because when we saw this as Habitat Restoration Work Group at Great Bay 2030, we did the same thing. We were like, what's the habitat exactly on literally the bank stabilization? And the answer is like,
Bird habitat?
birds. Yeah, so it just throwing it out there that might be a sticking point for that application specifically.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah, because what's the living part? You're not using riprap. You're using wood, large wood, and other
Yeah.
plantings on top of the large
Gabion
wood.
baskets where the plants grow out of the
Gabion.
baskets, I guess, right?
I mean, yeah, it's a narrow riparian area, but restoring it with natural vegetation over the scoured riverbank is definitely, I don't know, I feel like that would be, and I know DES has their stuff, but I think that there's an easy case to make for habitat restoration. There's conservation land on the south side of the river there. This bank has been in failure since, I think, my first week here. Yeah, we went out on a project, and at the time, the property owner was not interested in restoring it. So personally, I'm really excited to see the community support for this and the energy that all of these entities have put toward engaging the residents and taking some action. And that action's not just plantings, because I know there was concern expressed over what are we doing about the stormwater. And so, I don't know, I'm really happy to hear this come back and hear a stormwater management component added to it. I think that's fantastic.
And I think that will be it will be a dual approach, there'll definitely be additional phases needed for this site. It's a big one.
And I question how many other projects really have engaged residents to the degree that this has. Like, this really could be a phenomenal example to implement in a lot of communities.
Right?
Yeah, and I think the proximity, the population proximity, should help this project. It's like Wagon Hill, right? It's a park, right? There's no.
Right, like we've got a
people right
safety
there.
component here,
Yeah,
right?
there's like real infrastructure right there.
And some of it we don't even know about, nor do I know if we ever will, but, because some of it's so old, right?
Yeah, and just to play up, some of the other components like flood-ready neighborhoods is just an absolutely amazing project that really does this. And I was, I sat through some of the site selection for some of these, and we, me and Allison really plugged this neighborhood too, because again, we knew that bank specifically. And just sort of this very collaborative and comprehensive approach of looking at, a neighborhood who's living there, those stakeholders, and really bringing in all of these aspects, I think is totally awesome. I think the design of how we're approaching a bank failure like this and an erosion situation like this is totally awesome. And I really hope that we can move some of these pots of money, these funding mechanisms into something very much more realistic like this, because I think like this could definitely be the way that more projects are pulled together, and how honestly we want to see these projects. Like that kind of bank erosion or bank stabilization method is exactly how we want to start structuring these. Fitting those square holes through, or square pegs through circular holes is going to be tricky, but I am like absolutely 100% for it.
I might need to strong arm it, like the ES meeting, huh? So really, that was all we had. Did you want to add anything?
No, I think you covered most of it. I would recommend, just because grant timelines, creep up, perhaps the commission consider authorizing Dave to issue letters of support relative to this project so that it doesn't have to come back again. I mean, I know you'd be back for permitting,
Yep.
but to not have to come back again before a grant application is flat, if you're comfortable with that.
So moved.
Absolutely.
Okay, we got a second? Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Opposed?
I did it that time.
Nice.
All right. Thank you. Next item, letters of support for future grant applications for the conservation of the Rugg property. I understand that our select board representative has an update.
Yeah. Kristen, is this on?
I'm sorry, it should,
They are green.
It was green, then it was red, and now it's snow.
We just assume everything's fine.
hang on one sec, sorry.
You grab.
Use the boomer.
Let's turn it off.
We'll pick you up.
We can still hear you, but barely. It's okay. The wireless mics just decided to not work today.
All right, I'll use
Just
the
the
boomer.
bigger one? Oh, okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
At our select board meeting on April 29th, this statement was read by our town planner, Dave Sharples, to the select board. And I thought it might be appropriate to read it to the Conservation Commission as well, because you have quite a bit of interest in the Rugg property project. So I'll just read this. And the I here is Mr. Sharples, and the board is the select board, just to create context. I would like to take this opportunity to provide the select board with an update on the status of the Rugg property in Exeter. To provide a brief recap, the town was approached by the Ruggs several years ago where they raised an issue with the configuration and ownership of several parcels in the northern area of town. After discussions with town staff, the Ruggs engaged a surveyor who performed title work on the area. This report raised a host of issues with past surveys and monuments on the ground. In other words, this report contradicted many prior surveys, monumentation in the field, and what is shown on the town tax maps. We being the town, engaged legal counsel to aid us in navigating this issue since it involved land ownership and parcels the town acquired through tax deeds and other means. The town holds a warranty deed on one of the parcels in question. A warranty deed is an assurance from the grantor that the parcel is not subject to third-party claims and is warranted against such a claim. The town is committed to resolving this issue and has spent considerable time discussing this internally and with legal counsel. The town's goal is, and always has been, to resolve this issue in a timely manner. That said, title issues can be tricky to navigate, and this one certainly is. On January 31st, 2024, prior to the vote on the citizens' petition regarding the rug parcel that passed overwhelmingly, the town proposed a resolution to the rugs in good faith as a way to resolve the issue. As of this date, April 29th, we have not heard back from the rugs on this offer, so we are unaware if they agree or disagree with our potential solution. I was advised by our legal counsel, again, I as Mr. Sharples, I was advised by our legal counsel not to provide specifics on the resolution, so I will leave it at that for now. We wanted to provide this update as we have heard that some may believe it is the town of Exeter that is holding up the resolution of this issue. I want to assure the board, in this case the select board, that I do not believe the town is holding up this issue, as we offered a resolution to the rugs almost 3 months ago, as of April 29th. The attorney representing the rugs did reach out and ask for a meeting a few weeks ago, and while we were willing to meet, we asked what the answer was on our proposed resolution, as we wanted to know that before going to any next steps. But the attorney didn't provide us with an answer. We met with the rugs and their attorney last week, and they made no mention of the town's offer, so we have to assume they are not interested. The town is very interested in resolving this issue, but it will take cooperation from both sides to come to a resolution. We hope to get that cooperation in the coming weeks. And that's what was read to the select board on April 29th.
Thank you. I mean, when we've talked in the past about supporting this rug project, it's always been contingent upon the boundary issues getting resolved. This doesn't really change anything, it just kind of fleshes it out and gives us a snapshot of where we are right now.
Where we were as of April 29th.
All right, yeah. So,
again, this was read at the select board, but it seemed appropriate for this body as well.
oh, absolutely, yeah. No, it's good. So, I mean, I would say we just continue to support it under the same conditions we had before, and hopefully the two parties can work it out, because you know, there's a time element here and all that sort of thing, and if we miss the window, so does everybody still support the town pursuing this with the understanding of where it's at right now?
Oh, yeah. I don't,
Okay.
yeah, it's a good update. I don't think it changes anything for us.
Now, I don't remember, did we do a letter of support already for grant applications?
Yes, so there are 3 upcoming applications that specifically it would be helpful to have a letter of support from the Conservation Commission on. My recommendation, because we don't know what will be approved or not approved for grant applications, is as long as you're willing to provide blanket authorization to Dave to sign letters of support to pursue funding contingent on resolution of the boundary.
Yeah. Anybody want to make a motion out of that?
I'll motion that we approve as proposed by Kristen.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? There is none? Unanimous?
There's been no movement since the 29th.
I really am not authorized to do anything other than to read
So
this.
there's no public move, I mean, anything you can announce. Just
No, all I was charged with was reading
read
this.
that. Okay. Well, there's been a couple weeks since the 29th. I didn't know whether something had come up.
an expenditure approval for the spring tree program with the schools, I believe, right? Or school.
Yep, so
$253.80.
This is the Spring Tree Program. Peter Waltz, a former Conservation Commission member, has been doing the Spring Tree Program with the Lincoln Street students for the past 33 years. Basically, he talks about the importance of trees. Every student, fourth grade student, I believe, might be fifth, receives a sapling that they can then plant on their own property. And as you know, in the past, we had some members who actually, received a tree and had pictures standing next to their now much larger sapling. So the request before you is to support funding for the purchase of those saplings. It's already been purchased by Peter, timing-wise, so it's a reimbursement request. He purchased the supplies through the county. Sorry, I had it in my head, but now
Extension.
through the,
Oh, they do the saplings every year.
yeah.
The little.
I can't think what it's called,
Yeah.
but they're basically
Extension
very small, very small
I
saplings.
think it's the place in Brentwood, isn't it?
Depends on the county.
Yeah.
Because we now have a tree committee, the tree committee has been a part of the packing and the, program as a subcommittee to the
Right.
Conservation Commission, the kids program. So we're here, I'm here asking your support for reimbursement for Peter's expense.
I'll make that a motion.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Unanimous. Committee reports. Any property management issues at all?
One, I did have a phone call with concerns about, so Rains Farm, there's a group that regularly gathers at Rains Farm to do bird dog training. There's quite a few of them that go out and do that. A resident had contacted me with concerns that it might be a commercial operation, and I just want to report to you that I did speak with them. It's not a commercial operation, it's just sort of like a casual meetup, sort of.
Club.
Right, and the Rains Farm is unique in that it does allow off-leash bird dog training.
Yeah. Okay.
So I didn't feel there was any required follow-up associated with that. Bill and I did talk about putting the kind of please stay off the field and keep your dog's leash signs, which I think we still plan to do. So when that happens, I'll be sure to try to meet up. I don't know when they're meeting or how to contact them, so I'll be sure to try to catch up with them in.
What time of day do they usually?
Morning, it's morning, yeah.
Is there any conflict with the farmer on this?
I mean, I don't think so. It's really just dogs running through the field. So they just have a duck that, different stations, and they have dogs that they're trying to train, and, there's a command call and they go fetch the duck.
I drive by there every morning, so if I happen to see the group out there, I'll text you and let you know.
That would be great, yeah. Yeah, so just for protection of the nesting birds that are out there at this time of year, it becomes sensitive. I really am more concerned after the first cut, because as you know, that first cut will likely disturb nesting activities anyway. So, I'm more concerned about following up with them after that first cut.
Okay.
If you all agree with that, though, that's just my personal thought.
Makes sense.
Okay.
All right.
I'm not a bird expert.
Trails, that's been pretty quiet. Sean has contacted me and Kyle, I believe, about potentially armoring some of the low areas with flat rock versus building wooden structures and that sort of thing, because it is kind of a more permanent issue. Doesn't impede the flow of water. You can actually it's perfectly functional even with an inch or two of water over it, because it is rock. So he was going to explore materials and some labor and stuff like that, and try to put together a little bit of a plan in doing that. So we'll be hearing from that. And then I rode the power lines yesterday, and as best they could, they did a good job putting all that back together. Seems like the side trails have all been tied back in relatively well. There's one that's a little awkward but entirely usable. But not a lot of new branches have opened up or anything like that. It's the main artery ties into what already existed to either side. As far as I know, that's kind of where it's at with trails. Kyle, you got anything else?
Well, we had Kristen was the head leader for the rec department's Explore Exeter walk at the QB Road. So I unfortunately wasn't able to make that one.
And they just wanted Kyle. It was awful. They were like, "Where's
I'm sure they were excited.
It was okay. Yeah, that actually is so because we didn't have the snow that we typically have. Usually, that trail's maintained by the Exeter Snowhound Snowmobile Club. There's quite a bit of branches and debris that are down that we had to sort of get around, but I think it was a great walk. I think we had 5 attendees. Pretty excited for seeing a different property in town. None of them had been there before, so it's always exciting to sort of introduce people to a new location.
And the one this month is going to be in the Henderson Swayze Town Forest. That's kind of my home trails. That's where I go almost every day, so I'm looking forward to that one. And it's going to leave by the traffic circle by 3CI. I'm not sure, Kristen, you know the date?
I was just trying to the 22nd. At 3 o'clock.
So we will be going by the original Fort Rock. That's the rock structure that I think the place was named after, where they used to, I think, load the granite slabs onto the wagons and everything. And so it'll be a good time. And I think one other thing is they've posted no parking signs at the Watson trailhead along the street. So you can park in the lot, but especially on some evenings and on weekends, people used to park along the street. And there's now no parking signs posted there. It's a $15 fine, and they have been ticketing. And it's a little bit of a bummer because we're already limited for parking in that whole area, and so this is kind of removed a fairly significant portion of the parking that was available there. And hopefully, if this rug property acquisition goes through, that's going to add parking for that area. So another benefit.
Was there a complaint or something that got the police to put the signs up?
Yeah, my understanding is there were safety concerns that have been reported regularly through that corner, but I don't know if there was one specific event that
It's
triggered
been
it.
years since.
Yep.
Well, that's a nasty set of
It
curves
is.
there.
Yeah.
You have cars parked on both sides. I mean, potentially you could have posted maybe one side, but you definitely shouldn't have both sides with cars parking.
Yeah, to have the cars parked on the inside of that corner at the top of the hill really limited visibility. But I do think the neighbors, objected to maybe the people that hung out after and before they rode, and just the additional traffic on the street. Although I will say, I ride a road bike on that street a lot, and I don't think anybody goes 25 miles an hour on that street. But as far as the locals are concerned, if somebody with a mountain bike on a rack goes by, then they're like, see, that's those mountain bikers, they're always speeding. And, but,
yeah,
I don't know.
I would agree with that.
And so I guess if anybody's listening, if you have a big group, I would suggest you park either at the trestle lot or even better at the traffic circle by 3CI behind the rink, because there's almost unlimited parking there. And none of the neighbors are going to mind.
Okay, under outreach events, have we got anything? There was a citizen science project, the river herring migration count, which is underway right now, I believe.
It is, that's right. The town website has all the links if you're interested. It's a 10-minute timed count, so it's a pretty quick task to help support monitoring the herring population. Basically, all you do is you stand on Great Bridge and look in the water and count the fish that pass under the bridge. And then log your data and some weather information, and you're good to go. This information supplements what New Hampshire Fish and Game has for their fish counts. They count fish at that location 3 times a day. And so they're hoping to fill 6 additional time slots in that time period. When you go to our website, it'll take you to a Google Sheet where you can sign up for a different time slot. And they just ask that you don't show up at the same time every day. They kind of want it to be randomized. And the other thing they want you to do is report zeros. So if you're there and you don't see anything, that's just as important as having an actual number documented. So please continue to include that amount if you have them.
I caught up with Connor O'Donnell, Fish and Game at the Illinois Fest too, and he was saying that they are going to need some folks, as we go forward. We're seeing a little bit of volunteer fatigue. So if you know anyone around, or if ourselves, we can sign up for it. Again, I'm going to try to fill some slots myself. It's, should be a quick counts, but getting more robust data on these is necessary, because Fish and Game can't do it alone, and taking out these structures, I think it's, a goal that we're all trying to get towards to help fish. It makes it difficult for some of these older, techniques of figuring out what that impact actually is. So
you need the data. You need the data.
We need the data. We need the data, Dave.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if, Exeter TV might be interested in doing a spot on when someone's down there counting. And
Yeah, Bob actually reached out to me just today to get some more information and see if I had some suggestions for people to point him to who'd be willing to be out there. I know, Michelle, you've been out there. I don't know if you're interested.
And I just keep getting zeros.
That's okay.
You don't want to follow me.
But that's okay.
Bob goes out there all the time.
Zeros
I
are
see
data
him
too.
all the time on the string bridge.
Bob?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's out there all the time. But yeah, so
But
far
others-
I've got the big goose egg every time.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Even zeros matter.
It's not what they said in school.
That's a different metric there.
It's what, but it's quick and it's.
Yeah. All right, the SST student cleanup is happening at Morissette on the 15th, with the 17th as the rain date.
I think it's the 17th.
Yeah, so we switched it to the 17th because it kind of looked rainy. Now I think it's supposed to be clear tomorrow, but.
Yeah, not supposed to rain till
It's
like
Friday.
Sunday.
Which will be fun. I think the kids will be jazzed to be outside on Friday, right? Kyle and I are gonna go and try to keep them busy. There's not a whole lot out there, but it'll be a fun day.
Is it early? Or
There's
later?
2 time slots. It's 7 to 9, I think, and then 10 to 11:30 or something thereabouts. If you're interested, I can get you the details.
All right. Yeah.
Okay, are there other committee reports at all?
Yeah, sure. River Study, you wanna?
Sure. Yeah. So River Study met this month. We have a finalized report for alternatives of the Pickpocket Dam. We went through that presentation, and after hearing, and that report, I should say, actually includes public comments, including those captured via email through the public submission timeline. And at the end of that meeting, there was a 4-0 to 2 vote to recommend dam removal to the select board. So it goes on from there.
In addition to that, the Sustainability Advisory Committee is still interested in exploring possibly a collection event for styrofoam, where we're thinking October and then something after the first of the year. No, sorry, November and then something after the first of the year. So a collection event where you can come and bring your styrofoam. So if you're, making school purchases or purchases around the holidays, you can get your styrofoam disposed of in a way that it can be repurposed. Guilford has a machine. They accept it for free, and they actually use it to densify the styrofoam and sell it as a commodity. It's something that the Sustainability Committee and I are really interested in bringing as a service to our region and accept from areas. I had some initial discussions with Steve Cronin and Jay Perkins about it, and I think we're gonna try to get it together and have a meeting to talk about the feasibility of that. And they're also looking into the waste management contract, which expires on 2027. So there's some time to get ahead of that. And we're trying, and Dan's gonna join us in meeting with Public Works to talk through, all the nuances of that. The Energy Committee, we had a really exciting thing to report. The pre-construction meeting for the solar array out at the Crossroads landfill happened last week, which is great. It's great to see some progress there. Very excited. And the Energy Committee has been very busy trying to get trained up with the window dressers project, which I've talked about in the past. They're looking for a January community build date to construct insulated inserts for people's windows. So they will be looking for volunteers, and I'll be sure to bring some more information as we get closer to that time frame to this board. But it's amazing. I've sat in on one of the webinars and read the instruction manual. The amount of training and education they provide for you is phenomenal. It's really like a script that you can just follow to have a successful event. So they're really excited to bring that forward. Tree Committee.
Yeah, I talked to Amy Farnham about it.
Yeah.
And I saw she had a small scale one of it.
At Alewife.
Seems like a good, at the Alewife Festival. It's a good design.
Yeah, they're pretty sturdy. They're
they look
usable.
sturdy. And the company actually makes the wood part, and then we're just doing the foil wrap or plastic wrap.
Yeah, I think they bring pre-cut lengths. So the way it works is you have community members go out to a certain subset of homes who's interested in purchasing them. And they go out and do the measurements, part of the commitment to purchasing the inserts, they're sold at a discount, but that means you have to commit to help with the build. And then a portion of the community can receive free or discounted inserts if you don't have the funds to install them yourself. So it's a great way to kind of insulate a whole bunch of different homes, whether you have the financial means to or need that sort of support. Yeah, so they have these forms that you bring, they pre-cut all the wood, and they bring forms in, and so you just attach them together and make your rectangles, and then there's another station that does the wrapping. It's pretty cool.
Sounds worthy. Is that it?
Minutes.
Yeah.
All right, we have some minutes from the April 9th meeting to approve. Anybody know any problems? In that case, make a motion that we approve the minutes from the 4/9 Conservation Commission meeting.
Second.
No further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Nay? There are none? All right. Next meeting is June 11th. Deadline for submissions is May 31st. And it is 8:55. Make a motion, we adjourn.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Nice job, Dave.
That's right, bro.
Did it.
Like a
Thank you for tuning
Very
in
natural.
to Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast channels 6 and 22. Channel 6 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 8, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Biweekly Report, with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well.